Hello, this is the CISSP study hour, and we are going to be talking about domain 3 today. Actually, I'm sorry, domain 2, asset security. If you're unfamiliar with the CISSP, it is a certification that I had and lost that was cruelly ripped from me because I failed to keep up with my CPEs, and now I need to recertify myself. And so I'm going to be your virtual study buddy for the next hour, where I'm going to go through some of the questions, do a little bit of research, refamiliarize myself with all of this with the goal of eventually taking the CISSP and reclaiming my rightful name and throne of having one so I can put it in my little email signature line. And that's the plan for today. So let me switch this around. And here we go. As always, we're using Quizlet. This is the ISC Squared's official study materials that they have on Quizlet. It's free to access, and you can go through this yourself. I'm going to be going through this as if I'm studying on my own. And a few other notes. It says on the right, stick around to 12:45 Eastern time for a chance to win a Yeti mug and test your CISSP knowledge. We're not going to have a formal quiz today like we did last time. We're working on it. It's still coming. But there will be a chance to win a Yeti mug. Let me grab it here. I've decorated mine, of course, with Star Wars stickers. But you can do whatever you want with yours if you win it. Last week, we sent one out, and this week we're sending another one out. It's from our sponsors, Varonis, who are helping us out and very kindly letting me, use their time to work and study for this as a community. I've also been told I do a really bad job of keeping my head inside the square. So, feel free to shout that out as well. And let me go ahead and open up chat, which I forgot to do before I started this because I didn't have a good checklist. So, all right, starting the checklist. So if you're watching this, say hi in chat. We'd love to chat with you. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay. Accountability ensures that account management, accountability ensures that account management has assurance that only authorized users are accessing the system and using it properly. I think I've already messed this up a little. Let's see, flip it. So this is accountability. Account ensures that account management has assurance that only authorized users are accessing the system and using it. Yeah, this is one of those tricky things. Like, this is not the sort of non-security practitioner's definition of accountability. It's very much the management mindset, which is something that comes up a lot in terms of studying for the CISSP, where they're oftentimes looking for a very specific interpretation or definition of a term. Hello, Comperfex, FX? I don't know. Very nice to have you. All right, next. Also, it'd be neat to see what other people in the community are working on. If you're trying towards your CISSP or if you already have it, just cool to know. All right. An item perceived as having value. I believe this is just asset. So asset, easy enough. All right. The phases that an asset goes through from creation, collection to destruction. I believe this is the asset life cycle, which is a very generic term. All right. Now, CNMPRFX. I don't know if that's a pronunciation guide or a regex, but either way, good to have you along. The phases, so asset life cycle. And this gets real weird, especially with intellectual property, where what exactly is the asset life cycle of a piece of intellectual property when, it's a blog post that gets created and then later on you decide you don't need it. But okay, asset life cycle. A minimum level of security. Asset protection baseline. Not doing good on my definitions. But yeah, so baseline is the minimum level of security. This is one of those things that throws me off where like they use baselines for all sorts of stuff. Like there's a baseline for, security policies, for baseline for operational stuff. But okay. The removal of sensitive data from storage devices in such a way that there is assurance that the data may not be reconstructed using normal system functions or software file data recovery abilities. I guess utilities, not abilities. So I'd say data destruction, data removal, asset destruction, clearing. Okay. Clearing. By the way, we're going to be handing out the mug to whoever can answer these in. So if you had typed in clearing, you'd be giving yourself a leg up on getting the mug. So, all right, an arrangement of assets into categories. Asset categorization, classification. Classification, okay. The critical point where material's intrinsic magnetic alignment changes direction. It's been a long time since science class. Meridian point. That can't be right. Curie temperature. Oh. I saw a funny tweet where a woman was saying like, yeah, I told a guy I was related to Marie Curie, and he responded by telling her that it's pronounced Mariah Carey. None of which is helpful for this, but it made me think of that. So, all right. Critical point where a material's intrinsic magnetic alignment changes direction. All right. So something that helps me a lot with these tests is coming up with mnemonics or having like crisp visuals that I keep in my mind for putting them together. And so in this case, I'm going to think of like literally my mental image of Marie Curie changing direction. And hopefully that will help it stick in my head. And maybe she's changing direction because it's hot out, like the sun's on her. And so it's the Curie temperature. Also, if you have your own mnemonics or ways of remembering these things, throw them in chat. It'd be neat to see. Okay, responsible for protecting an asset that has value while in the custodian's possession. Asset administrator, custodian. I hate it when they put the names in. It makes it both too easy and too difficult. Okay. They're the custodian. Okay. Entails analyzing the data that the organization retains, determining its importance and value, and then assigning it to a category. So classification is assigning it to categories, but this seems broader. So I think this is an audit, like an asset audit. And our regex friend is asking, why is that a security-based question? So the CISSP is really for like an executive, entirely split out from technical implementation in most cases standpoint, where they are trying to get you to think about this the way that, a real CISO would need to think about these things. And a lot of that is determining like what actually matters, because it's hard to secure everything. So you need to be able to come in and say like, yeah, this one thing is more important than the other. And I think there's a lot with this. Oh, the temperature one. That's included because you're supposed to melt down your hard drives. It's really what it's supposed to be. Not so much solid state ones, but disk ones. So, but everything else I said about the boring abstractness of this is also correct. Yeah. I suppose if you shred your hard drives, it doesn't matter so much that you melt them down, but either way, it's helpful. Okay. So I'm going to go with asset audit, data classification. Analyzing the data that the organization retains. So I guess that was the clue I missed here, that it said data in it for data classification. But, okay. Eliminating data using a controlled, legally defensible, and regulatory compliant way. So we use clearing already. Data destruction, authorized deletion, defensible destruction. Interesting. Defensible. It's weird they have defensible in here where it's mixing together the legal terms, but okay. Defensible, and it's included in the definition. Complete list of items. Inventory? Yeah. Inventory. Easy enough. Okay. Phases that an asset goes through from creation to destruction. This sure sounds like asset lifecycle, but it may be something more subtle. Well, just lifecycle. Okay. Accountable for determining the value of the data that they own, and therefore also accountable for the protection of the data, as well as defining policies for access to the data. I believe it's the data owners. So it's using data. So it's scoped to that, not like a general asset thing. Asset lifecycle? I think that's for the last one, in which case, correct. Good job. All right. So I'm thinking data owner. Yeah. So in general, there's a lot of distinctions made between like the owners, the person taking care of it, who's defining what with the CISSP. So that's what it's going. The removal of sensitive data from a system or storage device with the intent that the data cannot be reconstructed by any known technique. So we already use clearing, which sort of sounds like this. I'm going to clearing, purging, the removal of sensitive data. I think what I missed here was that this is a subset of all the data, that it's the sensitive data. It's not all of the data. That if we took a hard drive, remove the sensitive data, it is purging, versus if we dipped it in bleach and threw it in a volcano, that would be clearing. And also destruction. So, all right. Measuring something without using numbers, using adjectives, scales, and grades, etc. I believe what they're going for is qualitative, not quantitative. We'll see. Yeah, qualitative measurements. All right, using numbers to measure something, usually monetary values. So it sure seems like quantitative, but asset quantization? It's quantitative. This seems weird to me, especially this using monetary values. Like it's definitely a quantitative measurement to say like, oh, there's 200,000 files open to everyone on the network. And also to say like, oh, that's, 500 gigabytes of data, or that's 100. The CISSP? What? Is that another certification? CISSP questions? Cybersecurity system? All right. Residual magnetism left behind. Another Curie question. Residual magnetism? Remanence. Okay. I'm going to use my own study mnemonic, which is that sounds like romance. Oh, the CompTIA one. I thought it was just like the security plus. Is that CompTIA? So, Remanence. Yeah, the only certification I've ever had is the CISSP. Mostly because I've done a lot of software development, and certifications are less of a thing with that. So, Remanence. So I'm going to think of it like a romance novel that's fading away. And hopefully that will help me remember this. Residual magnetism left behind. Security plus one as well. Okay. All right. Assets of an organization that can be used effectively. Effective assets. Resources. Can be used effectively. It's an interesting way of defining that. Obligation for doing something can be delegated. So this is responsibility. All right. So this was pretty quick. So I'm going to go back and do another run through this just to see if I have it in my head well. Hello, everyone. If you're just joining us, we are going to do the giveaway for the Yeti mug. There's not that many people here because, we're just getting started with things. So you have a decent chance to win it. All you need to do is just throw answers out as we're going through this. So far, Simperfex, CNMPRFX is in the lead. So, all right. Accountability ensures that account management has assurance that only authorized users are accessing the system and using it properly. This is the definition of accountability. All right. Oh, we should shuffle these too. A minimum level of security is baseline. Residual magnetism left behind. This is my mnemonic with the romance novel. It's Remanence. All right. Eliminating data using a controlled, legally defensible, and regulatory compliant way is defensible destruction. Accountable for determining the value of the data that they own, and therefore also accountable for the protection of the data, as well as defining policies for access to the data. This is the data owner. All right. An item perceived as having value. This is an asset. Assets of an organization that can be used effectively is a resource. All right. Getting better. Arrangement of assets into categories. This is classification. It's not scope to data classification because it didn't say that, which is one of those tricky things that it messes you up on the test. Data owner from mini-bit 10. Obligation for doing something can be delegated. I believe this is responsibility. Also, something I'm aware of is that there is a lag between what I'm saying and what gets pushed out over the stream. So Globster 3K is asking for a recommendation to describe why it was recommended. I don't know. The AI algorithms are determining this. We are studying for the CISSP exam, which is one of the higher end, I think is fair to say, security certifications. Almost knocked over my water. So this is just like a group study hour to go through it because the content is legitimately very dry. So we're just doing our best to get through this. And it's a nice way of kind of forcing myself to study for this as well. All right, so this is obligation for doing something can be delegated, which is a responsibility, like my responsibility to do this stream each week to try to get us all to get our CISSPs. All right, phases that an asset goes through from creation to destruction is life cycle. Complete list of items. What could the CISSP be useful for? If you would like to be on a career path of becoming a chief information security officer, or to be to move from like a sysadmin to maybe a security analyst to then doing management, it is very much to help you along those lines. And it has both pretty rigorous exam process as well as a lot of, I think, legitimate ways of stretching you to think about security as a whole and not just a lot of the technical stuff. So complete list of items, inventory, very good. Responsible for protecting an asset that has value while in the custodian's possession. So I think this is actually custodian as well. Yeah. My grandfather was actually a custodian of a school for like years and years and was like the handiest person I've ever met. He's a cool guy. He's really into ham radio. Actually, you want to see something neat? This is his. These were his headphones from when, he was doing ham radio stuff, and he was W8IGY, which was his call sign on ham radio. I wish I could get into ham radio, but it seems not very practical, and I have, I need to study for my CISSP. So too many things to do. Then maybe in lockdown is the perfect time to do that. Okay. Responsible for protecting an asset that has value while the custodian is custodian. Very cool. All right. Accountability ensures that account management has assurance that only authorized users are accessing the system and using it properly. This is accountability, and just the question definition is worded very oddly. But yeah, so the critical point where a material's intrinsic magnetic alignment changes direction. My mnemonic was Marie Curie, and the sun is on her, and she's turning, which is Curie temperature. Entails analyzing the data that the organization retains, determining its importance and value, and then assigning it to a category is classification, data classification. Measuring something without using numbers, such as adjective scales, this is qualitative. Good, good. The removal of sensitive data from storage devices in such a way that there's assurance that the data may not be reconstructed using normal system. This is clearing, which, you know, I think in my mind of like hard drives on a desk and they're just like thrown off, that it's cleared. Okay. Using numbers to measure something, usually monetary. This is quantitative. Okay. The removal of sensitive data from a system with the intent that the data cannot be reconstructed. So this says the clue is sensitive data. So it's not all the data, which is purging. So we're getting rid of the bad stuff, the sensitive data. Phases that an asset goes through from creation, collection to destruction, asset life cycle. Okay. Yeah. Sorry for the caps. You're just really passionate about accountability. And who's not, honestly? Okay. This was a short one. It was only 19 questions. So I think what I'm going to do is actually go back and let's do the next one as well. So we're doing domain 2. Hey, come on. Just let me go back to the whole list here. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go home and browse for this. Too much. Here we go. CISSP. Why can't I find this now? Okay. Sorry for messing around here. I think I can cut back to here in the URL. No, it doesn't want me to do any of this. Oh, here we go. AIC spread. This is a fantastic resource, by the way. So we're going to switch up to domain 3. We're just on domain 2. If you look at the first 2 streams we did the 2 sets for domain 1, and now we're just going to jump into domain 3. So this is 39. We may get through this once, and then once we get through it, we'll probably just do this once and then do the giveaway for the Yeti mug, which legitimately keeps your coffee incredibly hot, so you burn your lips and you think about your life choices. Okay, a mathematical function that is used in the encryption and decryption process. So it's a mathematical function, a hash. I mean, a hash is a hash function, mathematical function. Encryption, decryption process. It's an algorithm. I suppose a hash function is an algorithm. Okay. All right. Next. Not identical on both sides. In cryptography, key pairs are used, one to encrypt, the other to decrypt. This is asymmetric encryption. It's not identical on both sides. Key pairs are used, one to encrypt, the other to decrypt. This is mostly right. This gets very technical. But yeah, asymmetric encryption. So ensuring timely and reliable access to and use of information by authorized users. So I think this is CIA Triad. This is availability. Yeah. So CIA Triad is confidentiality, integrity, availability. It has nothing to do with the CIA or the occult, which is disappointing because it's really one of the coolest sounding InfoSec things. All right. An entity trusted by one or more users as an authority on a network that issues, revokes, and manages digital certificates to bind individuals and entities to their public keys. So this is a certificate authority, please. Yeah. So if you haven't worked in enterprises that have like a lot of certificate infrastructure, this really is like GoDaddy, or not even GoDaddy, but which I think they're a certificate authority now. But if you're using AWS, they're a certificate authority now. The big ones are like Sectigo, which used to be Komodo, or DigiCert, which has now bought up like a whole bunch of the rest. They bought up like GeoTrust and the other ones. And so they are the ones that issue the root certificates. And what's not, I think, entirely clear to a lot of people who haven't done a lot with this stuff is that you could do that too. Like you can download an open source app, set it up, and become your own certificate authority, and issue your own certificates and do all sorts of stuff internally for them. Probably overkill for studying for the CISSP to do that, but still, a fun thing for a Saturday, if that's your thing. Okay. Security model. So he says, yeah, top level mofos. Exactly. I don't think that's how they phrase it on the test, but the more precise you can be, the better. Security model with the three security concepts of confidentiality, integrity, and availability make up the CIA Triad. It is also sometimes referred to as the AIC Triad, which is much less cool sounding. But I don't even know how that's a definition. I guess that's a definition. Okay. The altered form of a plain text message so as to be unreadable for anyone except the intended recipients, something that has been turned into a secret. So this is encrypted. Oh, it's the ciphertext. Oh, because this is me being dumb. So they said plain text, and the opposite of that when it's encrypted is that the text is the ciphertext. This is one of those things I feel like hasn't held up well, as certainly text is still encrypted a lot, but nowadays it's so much more than that. Yeah. So I don't know. The plain data and the cipher data. Okay. Preserving authorized restrictions on information, access, and disclosure, including means for protecting personal privacy and proprietary information. Preserving authorized restrictions. This is protection? Protecting personal privacy. When it says personal privacy, usually that means confidentiality. So I'm going to see if that's it. Yeah. So this is one of those things like there's a very specific definition they're looking for. And anything relating to PII, is usually related to confidentiality. So, all right. Provided by mixing, changing the key values used during the repeated rounds of encryption. When the key is modified for each round, it provides added complexity that the attacker would encounter. By mixing, changing the key values used during repeated rounds of encryption. So it's not changing the key value. Yes. I am not sure. Confusion. All right, well, that is certainly me. Mixing, changing the key values used. Okay, well, we're just going to go that that's confusing, and that's confusion. I feel like there should be a better technical name for that. Yeah. Okay. The study of techniques for attempting to defeat cryptographic techniques and more generally information security services provided through cryptography. For attempting to defeat cryptographic techniques. So decryption? Cryptanalysis. Study of techniques for attempting to defeat cryptographic techniques. See, I guess I don't quite agree with this, only because, only because I feel like this is the general study and not the study of just the decryption. That, if you were studying this and wanting to know how to properly encrypt something, it would be the same term, but I'm trying to pass their test, so I'm doing my best. So, as a side note, if you haven't read Cryptnomicon by Neil Stephenson, it is a great book and on its own, it's tremendously entertaining, but also really goes into a lot of the cryptographic techniques, like the base stuff, in a really interesting way. Really makes me want to own my own Enigma machine. Okay. The science that deals with hidden, disguised, or encrypted communications is cryptography. Oh, for cryptology? Now I'm frustrated. What is cryptology versus cryptography? Okay. Well, from military embedded. Let's hope this is a trustworthy source. Okay. Cryptography is the study of codes, both creating and solving them. Cryptography is the art of creating. Cryptanalysis is the art of surreptitiously revealing the contents of coded messages. Oh, guess I'm wrong about all my terms. Cryptography is a broad segment of mathematics. Some definitions. The study of the codes. Cryptology is the study. Cryptography is creating. Cryptanalysis is breaking them. I'll need some time to come up with a better mnemonic for that. How about cryptography? That's like geography. So that's like the whole map of things. And then within there, we have cryptology, which is like trying to study them. Cryptography, which I'm thinking of like a graph, like a bar chart, and it's being created as it goes along. And the cryptanalysis is the looking into the coded messages and seeing what's happening. It's very hard to disambiguate all these things, but doing our best. All right, so cryptology is the science of them. Yeah, that deals with disguise. Okay. Secret writing today provides the ability to achieve confidentiality, integrity, authenticity, non-repudiation, and access control. I'm going to say encryption is a general term for this. Secret writing, cryptology, cryptography, because that's the creation. So this is talking about the creation of these systems. Yeah, the reverse process of encryption is decryption. It's the process of converting a ciphertext message back into plaintext through the use of cryptographic algorithm and the appropriate key that was used to do the original encryption. Decryption. Okay. By mixing up the location of the plaintext throughout the ciphertext, the strongest algorithms exhibit a high degree of confusion and diffusion. Confusion? Diffusion. Mixing up the location of the plaintext throughout the ciphertext. Interesting. So this would be like if you had, a whole paragraph that was written in English, and then you wrote an algorithm that would just like swap the words around in a way that was easily reversible. And then you put that into it, but mixing up the location of the plaintext throughout the ciphertext. I don't think that's actually it. I don't think that quite makes sense. I think instead of, linearly encrypting all this, it moves it around. I'll have to do some more research into that, but neat. Okay, this is very tiny, so maybe this is a difficult one. All right. Hello, Gaming with Ozzy. Azzy? Either way, welcome. An electronic document that contains the name of an organization or individual, the business address, the digital signature, bunch of holder public key, a serial number, expiry date, used to bind individual entities to their public keys, issued by a trusted third party referred to as the certificate authority. I believe this is just certificate, digital certificate. The one most people are probably familiar with is the SSL certificate or TLS certificate, which, there's lots of ways. Like, I wonder if this shows on the thing, but we can actually look at the certificate that this Quizlet has. Okay. So DigiCert, we mentioned them as the certificate authority earlier. We can see when it's valid. We can see an issuer statement, which is bringing this thing up. Yeah, okay. Cool. The reverse process from encoding, converting the encoded message back into its plain text format. Decoding? Some days it's just easy ones. Okay, an electronic document that contains the name of an organization, a bunch of other stuff. It's repeated. This is certificate, digital certificate. A broad range of technologies that grant control and protection to content providers over their own digital media. I believe it's digital rights management. Yeah, which is an applied form of cryptography because they're making up new stuff. Provide authentication of a sender and integrity of a sender's message and non-repudiation services. I think this is digital signing or like encrypted signing, digital signatures. Okay. And oftentimes that's very similar to just how do you hack? I've never actually tried before. This is probably not the stream for you. This is for studying for the CISSP, but we do have other streams happening throughout the week if you want to check the channel. They get a lot more into how to test systems, how to go through them. Most of those are run by Cody Kinsey, who is great at that and much better than myself. So give it a try. Authentication with sender and integrity. So this is digital signatures. So I'd mentioned like hash algorithms. The simplest form of digital signature is just that, is that you put your message through a hash algorithm and you get, some code out like, and then, if any tiny piece of that initial message changes, the hash that comes out is a lot bigger, not bigger, but extremely different. So that you can know like, oh, the signature is off on this. So the action of changing a message into another format through the use of a code, another format. This is one of those things where it's like so abstract, it's hard to understand what they're asking for. Like, are they base 64 encoding a message? That's my guess, is like encoding. Yeah. So you see this a lot. Like I had talked about like ciphertext and plaintext, like something that a lot of times that happens is because everything is sort of focused on text, is that like a binary file will be base 64 encoded. So you take a JPEG, you base 64 encode it, turns it into a bunch of text that then needs to be encrypted, sent, decrypted, and then unencoded. I think that's the term, decoded, unencoded. I'm just making things up now. Okay, next. The process of converting the message from its plain text to ciphertext is encryption. Okay. Accepts an input message of any length and generates through a one-way operation a fixed length output called a message digest or hash. This is a hash function. Yeah. And so if you actually did sat down and tried to compute what the encryption was for something, to go through all the steps of the public, private key signing and stuff, a lot of it is using hash functions. And there's a fundamentally interesting thing that can come out of, I think they're interesting, out of encryption or cryptology, the science of all this. All right, a non-secret binary vector used as the initializing input algorithm or a random starting point for the encryption of a plaintext block sequence to increase security by introducing additional cryptographic variance and to synchronize cryptographic equipment. I believe this is a seed. Initialization vector. That was the one I was thinking, but let's see. Initialization vector. I didn't spell that right, but close enough. Versus seed. It's an input that's used to provide initial state. Unpredictable or unique. Oh, salt. I was actually thinking of salt. Nonce. Well, the key. All right. So we're going to skip key because we already know what that is. Okay. Initial variance is just the initial value used to start some iterative process. Okay. It needs to be kept secret. Nonce is just a number used only once. Just never used twice. All right. Initialization vectors used for block are nonces. Make use of nonces as well. Okay. The salt. Okay, so where you normally see this is that, like a very common thing is that you do not want to keep your passwords for a system in plain text. So you want to encrypt them, but you don't want to encrypt them too easily. So for each one, in addition to encrypting them, something like bcrypt, there's a salt that's provided that helps to make it harder to guess what the plain text is. Hugh Hefner's here. Any other free resources for studying the CISSP? A great resource is if you go on to Reddit. There's a CISSP subreddit that is incredibly active. People are constantly sharing lots of great resources and sharing like the study tips and things they did to pass the CISSP. So if you're looking for more resources, I would recommend that. Okay, non-secret binary. So this is binary vector. So I guess that's the initialization vector, and that's kind of the clue that's tipping this off here. Okay. All right. Guarding against improper information modification or destruction and includes ensuring information non-repudiation and authenticity. Proper information modification, encryption, integrity. Yeah, I was thinking to implementation, not like abstract enough. Okay, it's already 12:44, so I'm going to try to go quick here, and we'll do hard cutoff at 12:55 for the mug. If anyone still wants a Yeti mug, that's cool. The input that controls the operation of a cryptographic algorithm permits the behavior of the algorithm and permits the reliable encryption and decryption of the message. The input that controls the operation. So it's the input algorithm. I don't know, key or crypto variable. Neither of those are the terms I would have used for that, but okay. I was thinking like cipher, but yeah. When different encryption keys generate the same ciphertext from the same plain text message. It's a collision? Key clustering. I guess it's a hash collision. Encryption keys generate the same ciphertext from the same key clustering. Interesting. Okay. The size of a key, usually measured in bits, that a cryptographic algorithm uses in ciphering or deciphering protected information. Key size? Key length. Not sure it actually matters, size or length. Okay. A small block of data that is generated using a secret key and then appended to the message used to address integrity. I don't know. The message authentication code. Okay, small block of data is generated using a secret key and then appended to the message used to address integrity. Okay, the message authentication code. Checksum, I would have liked checksum as well. I mean, checksums are normally just a hash of, the file size and some other things. Yeah. But message authentication code, I think, is more cryptographically secure. So, a small representation of a larger message. Message digest is used to ensure that authentication and integrity of information, not the confidentiality. I think this is the same thing, a Mac. Message digest. Just a digest. Inability to deny. In cryptography, a service that ensures the sender cannot deny a message was sent and integrity of the message is intact, cannot claim receiving a different. This is non-repudiation. Okay. So an interesting example of non-repudiation that comes up a lot in the practical world is the DMARC settings for email, where it's come up a few times where people have said like, oh, I didn't send that email message to that person. That was like 6 months ago. That wasn't me. And people have actually gone in and figured out, if you look at the email headers, you can see the DMARC signature, which is a cryptographic signature that's appended to the emails, which helps with spam and who can actually send things. And it's come up a few times with like Gmail, where Gmail and Google, they rotate those keys. So you can say like, oh, you did actually send this at a certain time and stuff. And there's certain efforts now to like catalog all those keys and keep them around to validate that people actually were sending these messages. And non-repudiation in action. Okay. Hiding plain text with another plain text, a form of steganography. I don't know. Null cipher. Sounds like a cyber. Hiding plain text within other plain text, a form of a null cipher. Okay, so I think this is the same as if you've ever seen one of those paragraphs where it's written and then the first letter of each line spells out a different word, or you read a whole article and then they say like, oh, now go back and read like every third word and it's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song or something. Null cipher. So, okay. The message in its natural format has not been turned into a secret. So this is plain text? Yeah, plain text. Performs certificate registration services on behalf of a certificate authority. Performs certificate provider? Registration authority. Okay. So certificate authority is the organizational term. I think registration authority is probably like the actual endpoint that does these things. Hiding something within something else or data, so steganography. When a crypto system performs its encryption on a bit-by-bit basis. Performs its encryption on, I'm going to say, streaming? Stream cipher, yeah. Okay. The process of exchanging one letter or bit for another. Encoding? Substitution. So that definitely happens in encoding, but substitution. So an example of this would be the Perseverance rover just landed on Mars. In the parachute, there was a substitution cipher. Where if you looked and it had binary numbers listed in each of the different rings. And if you added up the numbers, you would add up like, the first was like 4, which, when you did the binary to number, it was the number 4. That was letter D and then A, and it was like dare to dream, I think, whatever the JPL slogan is. It wasn't drink your Ovaltine, but something equally kind of cool. Okay. Operate with a single cryptographic key that is used for both encryption and decryption of the message. Okay, so this is symmetric encryption and decryption versus asymmetric. Anytime you have a public and private key, it's asymmetric. And anytime you have a single, it is symmetric. Symmetric is typically much faster, but it is more limited. And in a lot of systems, like actually what happens like behind the scenes when you connect from a website and it's, TLS SSL, it does the initial key exchange with the asymmetric and then gives you a temporary single symmetric cryptographic key for that session that's then used. So, choosing the right thing for the right time. Process of reordering the plaintext to hide the message by using the same letters or bits. I think this is confusion? Transposition. Man, I'm just dying on these simple definitions. Transposition. So we got transposition, we have substitution, we have confusion, we have diffusion. Okay. Secure crypto processor and storage module. I want to say like HSM, but trusted platform module. I feel like that should be trademarked. Secure crypto processor and storage module. I think TPM, I think this is like a hardware thing. It's on motherboards. Let's see. Represents the time and effort required to break a cryptography system. The strength, the work factor. Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, that was it for today. All right. Thank you, everyone that joined the stream today. Really appreciate it. And CNMP RFX, thank you for participating, for giving all these great answers and talking to us a little bit. We would like to send you a mug. The best thing to do, if you could email me at mbuckby@varonis.com, that would be very cool. And we'll take it from there. All right. Thanks a lot and hope you have a good day.